What made the biggest difference in your leadership so far? By the end of this video or podcast, wherever you're watching or listening, you're going to have three tips to take a massive leap forward in your leadership. I'm Jono White, founder and principal consultant of Clarity. We work with leaders around the world. And thank you for joining me in Leadership Question of the Day. As you heard at the start, our leadership question of the day is encouraging you to look back and say, what had the biggest impact on your leadership so far? And so I want to thank you for subscribing, following, liking, sharing. If you haven't done that yet, can you please do that now? Every time that you subscribe and follow and like and share, it helps us to help more leaders to become the best they can be, and it keeps you in the loop with all of the content we're producing on all things leadership. So take a look back for a moment. Think over your leadership journey. I'll join you. Let's look back. As a leader, there's probably been many things that have made a difference to you as a leader, that have built you up, that have invested in you. Hopefully many people who've invested in you in different levels. A great boss you had at one point, a mentor who would catch up with you at their own time really generously and just help you in life and leadership. Maybe it was a parent, an uncle or auntie, or a teacher at school who was a significant influence on your life, and you think that was a big help. Maybe it's, and so I want you to look back. Often it's a person, but it can be different things as well. It could be a book that changed everything for you. It could be an activity or a course that you were a part of. What for you has had the biggest positive impact on your leadership so far? I ask you this question because very rarely do we look back and say, you know what, just keeping on. That just helped me so much. Often there's something that we did, a step that we took to actually pursue something that made a massive difference in our leadership. So look back, I wonder what that is for you. And let me now share 3 tips. If you want to take a massive leap forward in your leadership, I'd encourage you to do these 3 things. The first tip is book summaries on YouTube. Now, I'm a massive fan of book summaries. I was just today working with a friend of mine. We were doing some work together, and we also over lunch were watching some book summaries. What is a book summary? Well, it's just a YouTube clip where someone explains the ins and outs of a great leadership book. This is so powerful because the way I like to approach this, I'm always looking at ROI. I'm always looking at leveraging my time as well as I can. So instead of reading a book a week, which is just not me, that's just not how I roll. What I like to do is watch book summaries. I will look for a list today, and I'd recommend this for you. Go to Goodreads. Goodreads is a book review website, and look up the best business books rated by readers, and there's 800 in order of reviews. That is awesome. What I'd recommend doing is just go through those, see if one piques your interest. Maybe right now where you're at, you're really struggling with your mindset, and you'll see one that's about mindset, and you'll go, and then just go into YouTube and type mindset summary and the author's name and see what pops up. And what you'll often be able to do is, there's a couple of things I love to do. First is, if there's someone's done a summary, it's amazing how many summaries are out there. Watch the 10-minute summary of the book. Now, it's not the same. I'm not saying it's the same as reading the book, but it does give you the gist of it. Okay, it gives you 80% of the idea of it, and the final 20% is where you probably get 80% of it in 10 minutes, and then 20%, the real final bit that helps you implement it and changes everything. If it's a really important book for you to read, sure, spend the hours reading it for that. But for me, I don't have time to be reading a bunch of books that may or may not help me that much. So the other thing you can do is look for an interview or a talk. I recently watched a talk for a book I was really interested in reading, an hour and a half talk where the person unpacked it. It was fantastic. I had it on 1.5 speed on YouTube, and so I listened to it in like an hour or something, and it was just such a great way to get a book. That book would have taken me at least 20 hours to read. It's a big book. So in 1 hour, I was able to really get the next best thing. And now that book, I'm thinking about reading it. So that's my encouragement, firstly, around books. Secondly, I want to encourage you to go and sign up for a course. Don't sign up for any course. I'm going to do my MBA because that sounds amazing. Go and talk to some leaders who you respect and say, what course did you find super helpful? talk to 10 people. I promise you, talk to 10 people. If you haven't had the same thing come up twice, talk to 20 people. As an example, we've had 1,000 leaders do the 7 questions on leadership, and I'd say there are about 5 or 6 books that have come up like a bunch of times, maybe 8 times. That for me tells me I should read that book. And in the same way, if you have a bunch of leaders around you that you respect and you ask them, and then suddenly 3 of them have done the same course and raved about it, go and doesn't matter how much it is, go and sign up for that course and go and get involved in it, because it's likely in 10 years, if you listen to this again, you'll go, that course ended up being really helpful. So that's the second thing I'd recommend. And the third thing I'd recommend is to get a coach. I am a leadership coach, so consultclarity.org, hit me up. I would love to potentially work with you, just depends on how much I have on my plate. But hit me up and would love to chat about that. But honestly, it doesn't need to be me. Let's talk about the spectrum. If you're a CEO of a large company or an executive team member of a global company, then sure, invest in someone who has one of 2 things. I always think you can get a coach who's been in your shoes. They're 20 years ahead. I've been there. And you admire how they walked out their journey. That's one type of coach. That's actually not me, by the way. For the most part, that's not what I do. And there are some people where they say that's what they're looking for, or we find out that's what they're looking for, and I'll say to them, you don't need me, you need someone else, because that's just not what I do. I'm the other sort of coach, which is someone who asks the right questions. So it's much less for me about saying, when I was in your position 20 years ago, and it's more about saying, okay, I hear you're struggling with X, Y, or Z, so what would a great leader do? Answer that question. What would a great leader do in this situation? The right questions can help you to unearth what you should do. Now, if you don't have any budget, say you're an entrepreneur starting out and all of your money is tied up in your, you haven't even tied up any money in it yet, you're still working full time and this is a side hustle you're trying to get off the ground. Is there a friend? Is there someone that you could sit down with, and really, if I'm going to keep it really simple, someone who's a good listener, who you could say, would you be willing to do a sort of, maybe coach each other where for an hour, one of us just listens. Maybe one week I listen to you over a cup of coffee, the next week you listen to me, and all we do is ask questions, full stop. That's actually a really helpful exercise. And even if you'll probably find that's not the ideal, but that's a great place to start. So I'd recommend that. So there are 3 things for you to do. And I promise you, if you do those 3 things, start getting into book summaries, sign up for a course, but don't sign up for any course. Find one that's had a really big impact on people around your life that you want to be like. And the third one is to get a coach, even if it's just having a friend who sits down and listens to you for an hour and you do that for them. That will make a big difference to your life. If this has helped you to get clear in your leadership, comment with the word clarity. And thank you for subscribing, following, liking, sharing. If you haven't done that, please do that now. That helps more leaders to become the best they can be. And I look forward to catching you next time. Cheers.